Hey, what's going on, guys? Today is a very exciting day. Me and my sister are finally setting up our little bookshelf entertainment stand situation, and I don't know exactly how we're going to set things up, but I do want to go ahead and start organizing my movies, so that's exactly what I'm going to be doing right now. My sister is kind of going alphabetical order by, because she's sorting all of her books, she's going alphabetical order by author, and then like different genres and stuff like that. And I kind of like the genres idea, so I think I'm going to try to do the same thing. But I will admit, with movies, it's really difficult because I pretty much have like 70% of my movies are all action comedies. So if I do that, it's going to get like, there's going to be some categories that would only have like one or two. So I'm kind of doing joint categories. So I'm going to do all of animated movies in one. And I know like animation's not really a category, but when it comes to like the Oscars and stuff like that, they tend to put all the animated movies together anyways because they don't really care. So I'm just going to do that for organization's sake. And then movies like musicals and comedies, I'm going to put those together. I'm thinking horror and drama. I'm going to put those together because I honestly don't have a whole lot of drama movies, but I do have a decent bit of horror movies. I'm thinking sci-fi movies because I have like 3 or 4 movies that are sci-fis, and war movies. I'm going to kind of put them together. I don't know why. I just feel like for the most part, those are both rated R, and I think that they're the most rated R movies I have, so I'm going to put them all together like that. And we're just kind of going to go ahead and organize things like that. I'm also going to try to do like feels good / coming of age / sports movies as one category. So we're just going to dive right into this. And I've got 2 boxes here. I've got one box that has all my DVDs and then another box that has all of my Blu-rays. So I'm just kind of going to get to that. I'm going to probably do like a little time lapse of me organizing it because I have like 9 different kind of genre combinations in my head. And I currently have a 9-cube organizer underneath me that you can't see. So I'm going to time lapse me sorting them together and then kind of show you the groupings that I make, if that makes sense. So that being said, enjoy this time lapse.
Okay, now one plus side to this is when I had my boxes on my bookshelves before I packed them, they were already somewhat sorted. So some of these are actually already kind of with the movies that they would be, but that big stack that you're seeing right there is actually my horror movies. I was really surprised that my horror movies were kind of filling up like crazy. Then I got my dramas, and then I got the animation up in the top right corner, which is starting to get a little full. You can see my little Simpsons collection up there, but box number 1's complete now. Now we got our last little box here, and the majority of my superhero movies are in this box, and this is also where all my Blu-rays are, so this box should be a lot quicker to go through. In fact, yeah, that's it.
Okay, now about 20 minutes later, I finally have kind of everything organized. I set aside I have collector's boxes for every single movie in the Infinity Saga for the MCU. I already have a kind of like display idea for what I'm going to do with that on one of my 9-cube organizers, so I'm not going to include those, but every other movie I own is pretty much through there and sorted, except for 6 movies that I had just bought the other day that I kind of didn't think to bring over. But let's go ahead and go through the categories, shall we? On this shelf, we have all my animated movies. On the bottom, I have a couple of movies that I was just considering kind of childhood movies that I wasn't sure what to do with. I think I'm probably going to go ahead and add those 2 like childhood movies to my comedy / musical section, because I realized afterwards one of them is literally a musical, so there's no problem with having it there. And then over here we got my sports movies and my coming of age movies. I thought I had a lot more coming of age movies, if I'm being honest. I'm actually really surprised about how small that section is. There's all my superhero stuff. That includes not just Marvel and DC, but also movies like Sky High, Underdog, The Incredibles. Even though The Incredibles is an animated movie, I feel like having all my superhero stuff together is a little bit more important than having all my animated stuff together, if that makes sense. Down there's a little subsection for fantasy, which I didn't even think about. Apparently I have a bunch of fantasy movies, a bunch of action movies / heist movies right there. On the left down here we have our sci-fi movies. On the right we have our war movies. Here's all my comedies and all my musicals, and then on the bottom, all of the stuff on the left is my horror movies. All the stuff on the right is my drama movies. And the plan is to go ahead and alphabetize them. I originally was going to mix like drama and horror, and I was going to mix like sci-fi and war, but I think I can actually just still leave them separated because I have enough of them. It's not like I was kind of thinking I would have like 2 war movies, and it'd be weird to just have 2 war movies in the middle of nowhere, but I have like 6 war movies apparently. And then when it comes to horror movies, I honestly did not think I had that many horror movies and that many drama movies. I have like at least 12 of both of those categories. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and alphabetize everything, and I'll meet you then. Okay, so I went ahead and organized all of my animated movies. If anybody's curious about all my movies, I'll kind of like slowly pan through them so you can see what movies I have. I was going to try to list them all off, but this video would ultimately end up being like 25 minutes long. But trust me, I have some fun ones in here. Okay, now that I got all my animated movies situated, I went ahead and did some of my smaller ones so that I could put those, and then I'm going to do my comedies and musicals all together. So right there, I did like my 5 sports movies, and then I did my 4 coming-of-age little movies that I have there. And now next to organize, we got all of my comedies and musicals, which are these 2 stacks right here. Okay, and then the next up, all of our comedies. Once again, I'm going to go through them slowly, so if you want to see what movies I have, here's a general understanding of all the movies that I got. For some of them, like these film collections, oh man, actually, you know what? I gotta rearrange these. So what's it called? I'm going based off of the big letters, so L for Laugh Out Loud, even though it's Adam Sandler movies. I accidentally messed up this one because it's The Mask and The Son of the Mask, so I was like, okay, I'll have it with M's. But looking at it from the outside, it says 2 films, so I'm gonna have to put that in F's at some point. But other than that, everything else is perfect, good to go. Alrighty, and I stepped aside for a little bit to have dinner with Dela's sister and Dela's father, and I ended up doing the dishes for the first time in the new house. For people who do not know, this is kind of a part of my little moving vlog series I have going on. I just recently bought a new house. I'm moving in. That's part of the reason why I'm organizing through all of my movies. And one of the only downsides to this new house that me and my sister got is the kitchen did not have a dishwasher. And like, if we really wanted to, we probably could have found a way to install one. But honestly, having to wash dishes by hand, not that big of a deal. I think it'll be totally fine. But that being said, I did that, and now we're gonna get right back into the movies. I'm insanely excited. And to give you guys a little preview, my sister is currently working on her books. That's all of her romance books. I think that she still has some more romance books to get through. All those boxes on the ground are all her books. She had like, I wanna say 12 boxes full of books. And if anybody's like, oh, well, those boxes are kind of small, why didn't you put them in bigger boxes? Books are heavy as hell. So those were all probably about like 20-pound, 30-pound boxes of books. And she hasn't even cleared out a single one yet. And mind you, look at how much she's gotten through. She's gone through a lot, actually. I'm really proud of her. But yeah, back to my movies. I think that I've done this since the last time I updated you guys. I went ahead and sorted my fairy tale stuff. So that's all alphabetized. Next thing we're going to do are action movies. Okay, and here are all of my action movies. I decided to include movies like Godzilla because I honestly don't know what those would be. Because part of me was like, is it sci-fi? I don't really think so. And especially like these ones in particular, like with the Godzilla one. That movie is like a survivor film, which I feel like would be more along the lines of a action movie. So if anybody disagrees with me, feel free to let me know down below and be like, hey, you're an idiot. That's definitely a sci-fi movie. I don't know. Okay, and then from there, we're going to do my actual sci-fi movies. I decided to include dystopian movies with my sci-fi movies. Okay, now for all of our sci-fi, we got Back to the Future, the 3 Dune movies. We got Everything Everywhere All at Once, the Hunger Games movies, Interstellar. I do think, since I'm including Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes here, I feel like I probably should move over Godzilla, because I feel like the Godzilla movies are on the same vein as Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, so I think I am going to go ahead and move Godzilla over and probably put it right there. Okay, and then next up, all of our war movies. Okay, and then the next one, we have all of our dramas, so we're just going to slowly go down there. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. If it starts with a number, that goes first. I put numbers first, and then we do alphabetical order. So movies like 21 Bridges is going to be up top. But that's all that. I also went ahead and included, like, mystery-style movies, because I'm like, I also don't even know what to do with them. I only have Sherlock Holmes and Knives Out. Those are the only ones that are, like, mysteries, so I figured that could probably go there. Alrighty, gang. And then we got the horror movies all sorted out. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. There's such a weird mix because there's a lot of movies in here that are like borderline comedies. And then I also have movies like this one where it's like, it's just kind of like an intense thriller. And that one almost would fit in the dystopian category. I honestly don't know. But all of the categories are done. It's not like there's another one that's the biggest that's gonna be the pain in the ass that's gonna take forever. I'm kidding. Now we got all of my superhero movies, and I'm going to do those real quick, and then we officially have everything organized and sorted out, and then I'm going to try to transfer them over to the bookshelf. Okay, and finally, the last section is all organized. Here's all of my superhero movies, starting off with Ant-Man, going to all the Avengers movies, some Batman movies, the Blade trilogy, Blue Beetle, bringing it down to Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, Green Lantern, the Hawkeye TV show, The Incredibles, some of my Justice League movies, Man of Steel, Moon Knight. Then we got the Shang-Chi, all the way down to all of my Spider-Man movies. I even have Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, which anybody who doesn't know, that's the Broadway musical for Spider-Man. It's a really crappy recording of it, but I still think it's a cool collector's edition item to have. Suicide Squad, bringing it down to all the X-Men movies and Wonder Woman. And I officially have organized literally everything. And I'm going to go see if I can try to put them on the shelf and figure out how I want to do this. Alrighty, gang, and I kind of skipped through this part because I thought that recording it would be really boring. Honestly, I wish I did time lapse because the amount of times I changed this and rearranged literally everything probably would have been kind of funny to watch. But you know how earlier I was like, it's okay, I'll just combine my Blu-rays and my DVDs? Yeah, I hated that. So I actually separated my Blu-rays again after doing that. So now the Blu-rays are kind of an indicator of, hey, there's a new section. So first of all my superhero stuff. Doesn't that look sick? Doesn't that look sick? I put one of my steelbooks on display. I fucking love my steelbooks. They're great. All the DVDs for my movies. Some didn't fit. And I will be honest, I think that that's probably the best way to go about it. Instead of having to like go find a new spot to put these extra movies, just kind of putting them behind for the time being. But there's all my superhero stuff, obviously that little L. Then we have my couple of fantasy movies, except for The Wizard of Oz and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them are behind it. They're both this little, what is it called, postcard series. So I thought that they would be kind of cute to put one of them on display. Then we have Stilgar. I haven't taken him out of the box because of this little goober here. I don't necessarily know if I trust her yet. So the Funko Pops are staying in the box. I'm just putting her on display for the time being so you guys can see the vision. She's going to go right there because Dungeons and Dragons is fantasy, so it's right there. And then we come along. That's fantasy, action, sci-fi. Nope, that's sci-fi. Action's over here. And because we have action over here, we got Ladybug from Bullet Train. And then all of my horror movies are standing up right there. I do have one horror comedy that I decided to just throw in with the comedies for the time being because I couldn't fit an extra horror movie up there. So that's what I decided to do with that. Then we have all of my comedies over here on the bottom. And then I decided to put a bunch of the DVD comedies that didn't quite fit standing up right there. So we have obviously some DVDs for the comedies, some Blu-rays for the comedies, the rest of the DVDs for the comedies, because that is surprisingly my biggest section. Animation's pretty close. There's all my animation stuff up top. We got Cars right there, so I went ahead and put a little Lightning McQueen because obviously he's the best. I love him. And then down here we got my war movies. I decided to include only The Brave. Before, I think I had that in action, and I was like, that actually doesn't make any sense to have it in action. So even though it's not a war movie, I feel like it's similar vibes because instead of fighting a war, they're fighting a giant fire that's kind of raging out of control. And then we got my dramas to end everything off. And I have that big open spot that I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with yet. I imagine I do have more movies, like I said, that I'm bringing over, but none of them are for that section. So if anything, I might move these DVDs for comedies over and then expand this section here because I definitely have a Funko Pop of one of these movies that I could add in here.
Alrighty, gang, I have a bad habit of not making outros for my videos, so this is going to be an outro for the video you just watched. I hope that you had a good time watching whatever it is that you just watched, and I hope that the video that you just watched was a video that you watched. So thank you for watching. I'm gonna leave you, but I want you to know that I know you watched and appreciated that you watched. I don't know what you watched, but you watched it, and that's awesome. I'm gonna leave now. Bye.